Welcome back to the South African Morning. It's back to school on the 15th of February. The postponement has added to the financial burden on parents who say they still have to pay January school fees. A growing number of parents with children at fee-paying public schools are finding the costs have become unaffordable for them. This is according to the TPN Credit Bureau School survey. It notes that collecting fees is the biggest challenge facing schools. Managing Director Michelle Dickens is here to unpack this for us. Good morning, Michelle. Just take us through the findings of the school survey.
So what we do is we actually collect data every single month on how parents pay their school fees from the schools directly and bring that into the credit bureau. It's part of our payment profile of consumers. And we look at both public schools as well as private schools. And what we can see is paying school fees is often one of the last accounts that consumers pay. And it does trend much lower than all the other accounts that consumers pay. But coming into the lockdown period, we saw an incredible decline in the number of parents that were able to maintain their payments of their school fees. To give some context to that, at the beginning of the year, and often the beginning of the year and December at the end of the year is when school fees are paid the best. So it is cyclical. And in January, 67% of parents had maintained their schools paid up at the beginning of the year. And it started to deteriorate, August being the worst performing month, where only 45% of school fee accounts were paid up at that point in time. So it's not to say parents aren't paying at all, it's just to say that they aren't able to maintain settling those accounts in full. And that's absolutely in line with what we were seeing in terms of Bank Serve Africa and people's ability to earn an income. July was the worst performing month, with 35% less people were paid in July 2020 than in July 2019. So leading into August then to see the school fees deteriorate to less than 1 in 2 parents makes a lot of sense. And it's slowly starting to recover. I mean, we're now from 45% up to 52% in December, as there's a very slow recovery.
And parents at fee-paying public schools, they can apply for an exemption from paying fees for a certain time, but this just adds the load onto schools, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So fee-paying schools do earn a subsidy from government if parents are unable to pay their school fees. Now, you can apply for an exemption as a parent in full or in part based on the fact that you don't earn an income. So it's absolutely linked to your income, not linked to your expenses and therefore your discretionary spend at the end of that. So if you're in a position where you have lost your income, even if it's a temporary loss of income, you can then apply to the public school for an exemption in full or in part for a period of time where that income has been lost.
And this is where TPN Credit Bureau does come in. How can schools ascertain whether parents do actually qualify for an exemption of payment?
Absolutely. So, I mean, education is fundamental. It's critical to the future sustainability of our economy. We've got to be educating our young children. And so at fee-paying schools, the school relies on the parents' payment of school fees because the subsidy is not the same amount as what they would have earned from the parents. So there is going to be a loss of income for the school and the sustainability of the school simply by that exemption. So exemptions should be offered, therefore, to parents who qualify. And TPN helps the school assess if the parent who's applying for that exemption does in fact qualify because they have lost their income and they are in a position where they are unable to make their school fees. But this is not to say that parents who are still earning an income but have a burgeoning budget on other expenses and therefore want to apply for the exemption. This is not the instance for those exemptions to be granted. So TPN simply assists the school in determining whether the exemption that's being presented to the school, whether the parent does in fact qualify or not.
All right, thank you very much, Michelle Dickens, MD at TPN Credit Bureau.